There was a time you couldn't stop thinking about it. That goal, that dream, that thing that lit your chest on fire every time you talked about it. You were obsessed, not in a surface-level casual way, in a "this is what I was born to do" kind of way. You couldn't sleep some nights because your mind was racing with ideas. You told people about it like it was already real. You had that spark, that irrational belief that this goal was the thing that would finally change everything. And then, life happened. The spark didn't disappear overnight. It dimmed slowly, quietly. One missed day turned into a week. One delay turned into a pause. And now, somehow, it's just not there anymore. You sit with it sometimes. You think back to the version of you that started this journey. So full of energy, so full of vision, so full of drive. And now, you feel tired, unmotivated, disconnected. You forgot why you even started in the first place. You look at the goal and it feels so far away. You think about the effort it'll take and your chest tightens. You try to hype yourself up, but it doesn't stick. Because deep down, you're not just tired, you're lost. You ask yourself, was I just naive? Did I overestimate myself? Was it all just excitement with no real depth? And those thoughts? They're dangerous because they convince you to stop. Not because the goal isn't worth it, but because you don't feel it anymore. But here's what no one tells you when you start chasing a big dream. You will forget why you started. Not once, not twice, over and over again. Motivation dies, inspiration fades, excitement disappears, and what you're left with is the silence of showing up when it's boring, the silence of pushing forward when no one's watching, the silence of keeping your promises to yourself even when nothing around you is changing. That's where most people quit, not because they're weak, but because they don't recognize that silence is part of the process. You thought the hard part was getting started, but the real war, it happens in the middle, when you're too far in to see the beginning, but still too far from the end to see the finish line. That's where the doubt lives. That's where your old habits come crawling back. That's where you start comparing yourself to people who didn't stop. That's where you question everything. And you know what makes it worse? Life doesn't pause just because you have a dream. You still have responsibilities. You still get hit with bad news. You still deal with people who don't understand what you're trying to do. So now you're juggling burnout, expectations, disappointment, and a goal that once felt like your entire world, but now just feels like a burden. But here's the truth. You didn't start this for motivation. You started this because something inside you knew you had to. It wasn't a feeling, it was a calling. And callings don't go away just because you're tired. They wait. They sit quietly in the background while you work through your chaos. They don't judge you when you fall off track. They don't abandon you when you slow down. They wait for the day you remember. Not the hype, not the goal, not the vision board, but the reason, the real reason. The part of you that knew you couldn't keep living a small life, the version of you that was tired of settling, the soul-level urge to create, build, change, grow, do something that actually mattered. That's still in you, even if it's buried under fear, even if it's hiding behind shame, even if it's bruised from how hard things have been. It's still there, and it doesn't need you to feel perfect. It just needs you to remember. Remember that starting was never supposed to carry you to the end. You're going to have to recommit. Again, and again, and again. Even when it's boring, even when it's lonely, even when it's slow. Especially when it's slow. Because here's the harsh truth. If you don't fight for this dream, nobody else will. You'll watch someone else do the thing you were born to do. You'll hear people say what you wanted to say. You'll see people build what you were meant to build. And it won't be because they were better than you. It'll be because they didn't stop when it stopped feeling good. You're allowed to feel lost. You're allowed to take breaks. You're allowed to forget. But don't confuse pause with quit. Because the version of you that started this journey, they weren't wrong. They weren't naive. They weren't unrealistic. They were just brave enough to begin. And now, it's your job to be brave enough to continue, even when you've forgotten the why, even when it feels impossible, even when everything inside you says, "What's the point?" The point is that you're not done yet, and deep down you know that